Welcome friends. Some of my OG subscribers have been asking me why I don't cover used cars anymore, and that is a fantastic question. Although, if you have seen this video right here where I compare the price of a new Camry to a used Lexus ES, then you might already have an idea as to why I don't really cover used cars anymore. But regardless, let's go through it here. I'm going to be using two examples from my own channel here as to why I don't really talk about used cars anymore. One of them, it's going to be this C6 Z06 Corvette 2007 model year. I did this video about 5 years ago, okay, back when used cars was actually a good value and something worth talking about. I would actually go out of my way to review as many used vehicles as possible because I remember specifically this 07 Z06, it was going for $28,900 at Carry Imports. That was the dealership that I did this review at, and it had about 45,000 miles on it. Now, back then, I was an absolute doofus, and I did not have like the screenshot of the dealership listing in the video, but I did audibly say it in the video. The vehicle was, about $28,900 with 45K miles on it. This price, it was so good that even I thought about purchasing this vehicle, but even back then I thought to myself, man, I could also just lease a new Camaro, a new LT1 V8 Camaro for like $400 to $500 a month. So, at the time of that recording, the vehicle was already 13 years old. Fast forward today, this Z06 Corvette, it is 18 years old. So, my mind, it was already kind of telling me I can just get a new car, get the new car experience. Even though this car is legendary, I love the way it drives, I can just get a new car over a 13-year-old one. Okay, and that was back then. Let's fast forward today. A clean Z06 Corvette, okay, with no accident, no frame damage, because this Z06 that I drove, it was also a clean car, no accident history. A somewhat equivalent model today, it's going to be going for over 40 grand. In fact, the cheapest clean Z06 on the market right now, for the C6 generation, it is $36,900, $8 grand more than the Vet that I reviewed half a decade ago. That's just diabolical. And this one is a year older with almost 20,000 miles more than what I drove previously. If you just keep going down here, cleaner ones, they are exceeding $40,000, even getting up to $45,000. Yeah. We're talking about a car that is now 5 years older with more miles on it, going for more money. This is the reason why I don't really care about used cars anymore. Now, I get it. This is just a sports car. Price on something like this, it really doesn't matter to the average person. I understand that. So let's actually go with a more normal vehicle. Classic video right here. I reviewed this 2012 Toyota Camry at a dealership known as European Performance. Okay, once again, I didn't have the official dealer listing in the video, but I did say in the video the car cost about $10,000 to $11,000, which I think I meant the car stickered for about $10,900 at this dealership, and the vehicle had about 60,000 miles on it. Okay, now fast forward, we look at clean 2012 to 2014 Camrys. I actually put under 80,000 miles on it. The lowest priced one with no accidents, it's going for $10,600, and that's with 76,000 miles on it. This LE model, this is pretty much exactly what I reviewed. The same price, $10,950 with more miles, about 9,000 more miles than the vehicle I reviewed here. 5 years later, mind you, with more miles. Just diabolical. This is why I don't care about the used car market, okay? Dude, and this is not like the Corvette. This is a vehicle that families count on, they depend on for reliable transportation. You just can't be doing this with cars like this. In fact, right here, essentially the same thing that I drove, $12,995. $2 grand more with more miles on it 5 years later. And this is considered a quote unquote good deal by car gurus. Now, people would say that, okay, but new car prices have also gone up. And that's true, like new car prices, they've been steadily going up. But here's the thing, the new car is a constant. You get a new car with 0 miles on it, okay? With a used car, the year and the mileage, it has not been a constant, it's actually gone up, okay, in terms of the mileage and the years. Well, the car has just gotten older. Okay, with a new car, it's just new with no miles on it. Fantastic. And you can also finesse new cars in a way that you can't with used cars. There's so much flexibility with a new vehicle that you simply don't get with used. Not to mention, okay, used cars, absolutely no warranty coverage, right? And all the maintenance is going to be on your head. And there's a few other quality of life differences that you can't quite put a dollar amount on. And I was kind of ignorant of these things back then because I was much younger. I didn't really take these things into consideration, but that's going to be something known as crash test safety. That is now very important to me. And a lot of these older vehicles, they do not fare that well in a crash test compared to the newer vehicles. Sure, new cars are not perfect. There's a lot of chintziness associated with new cars. And you know, there is something else about new cars that I don't like, and I'll talk about that later, but you cannot deny it. The safety of a new car, next level compared to something like this. So if you have a family, you're putting kids in the back, that's really something to take into consideration, which is something I did not care about, you know, like over 5 years ago when I was reviewing this stuff, right? That being said though, you know, used cars, they were a good value. You know, there were people in the comment section saying there was one individual in particular, they bought like a Toyota Venza or something with like 40K miles on it for either $14,000 or $13,000. Now that's what I'm talking about. That's a deal. You know what I mean? And that was a long time ago. The vehicle, when he bought that Venza, it was maybe like 4 years old or something. So that's what I'm saying. The car wasn't that old. He saved a boatload of money off the original MSRP, and the mileage isn't crazy. Nowadays, the mileage is crazy. The vehicles are much older now. That's what I can't stand. You tack on the fact that these vehicles are a lot less safer now. See, because back then, like when he bought that Venza, the discrepancy in age, it wasn't that vast. It was like 4 or 5 years maybe. Now we're talking about, you know, a 2012 Camry. We're in 2025 now. This is now what, 13 years old. So, you know, that gap in safety, it's increased so much. Whereas, you know, a lot of people in the past, they were buying cars that are maybe only 4 to 5 years old and still getting amazing deals on it. That doesn't really exist anymore. Okay, and the interest rate on used vehicles pre-pandemic, like in 2019, it was like the low 4% range, assuming you had perfect credit. So you fast forward today, you go to a site like PenFed. Honestly, the interest rate's not that ridiculous today. It's obviously gone up by, you know, over 1% for sure, you know, for a used car, 60 months, 5.5%. But really, that's not that bad. I remember pre-pandemic, people were getting screwed over for sure on interest rates, paying well over 7%. That was pretty common, even for people with perfect credit. If you want to go all the way back to the early 2000s, dude, even on a new car, dealerships were screwing people over. You know, it was common to pay like 10% in interest, even with perfect credit 20 years ago. Now, the internet wasn't as popular and as powerful back then, and the knowledge was not readily available. But now we, the consumer, we actually have a lot of resources at our disposal. You know, the internet, it's got a lot of great websites that you can now visit for, you know, information. You know, knowledge is now readily available to us, and the dealerships can't really screw us over like they did 20 years ago. Plus, there's things like Google reviews for these dealerships. So a lot of things into play that really help us, the consumer, now with new car purchases. Not to mention, with a new vehicle, you are able to lease them, and lease hacking, that is huge. There's actually a website called Lease Hacker. That's the Lease Hacker forum, whole wealth of information right there. But, you know, when the pandemic came about and I started to notice, you know, car prices going up, that's when I started to shout out a company known as AutoCompanion. I'd actually purchased a vehicle from them as well. This is before I was partnered with them. I purchased a vehicle from them. I liked the experience, and I was just shouting out his deals in my car videos. He had no idea about it, and then a few people reached out to him, and then he realized that they were coming from my videos, and then he was like, hey, do you want to partner? And, you know, I can just pay you like an affiliate commission based on people who actually, you know, mention your channel and buy a car. I was like, sure, why not? I was doing it for free anyway, but it's not much, but I don't really care because it's a car, man. It's not like people are buying socks. So I totally get it. It's not like cars are going to be flying off the shelf, but regardless though, I would shout out his deals, right? And you know, the thing that's really powerful about new cars is you can lease them. And if you don't drive a crazy amount of miles, man, you can get a really nice car for not that much money. In fact, yeah, right here, Kia Niro plug-in hybrid, great on fuel efficiency and $272 a month, 12% off the MSRP. That is wild. If you were to finance the cheapest clean 2012 Camry, I mean, that's going to set you back like $234 a month. And yeah, you'll say that, okay, you're going to have this car paid off in 60 months, but in 60 months, you're going to have a Camry that's now 5 years older, which has obviously definitely depreciated. At that point, you probably have like a $5,000 car on your hands. The quality of life difference between driving this and literally any new car is wild. In fact, dude, 12% off on a new Corolla is wild. That's $3K off the MSRP on a $25,000 Corolla. These things were going for sticker for the longest time, so that's crazy. Dude, 33% off on this leftover EQB Benz. Insane. 24% off on a 2025 EQE Benz. $700 a month to drive this Benz. Yes, it's an EV, but people blow more money on a Toyota than they do on a Mercedes-Benz. For sure, I see it all the time. But let me just see what the absolute cheapest cars are that AutoCompanion has to offer. And if you don't know, AutoCompanion, what he is a car broker. So he has partnered dealerships in the Washington, D.C. and in the California regions. And what he does is he charges a broker fee to access his deals. So let's say you wanted this Kia Niro, you'll pay like $1,000 to AutoCompanion, right? To get this vehicle at 12% off the MSRP. This is essentially what I shout out all the time. So AutoCompanion is offering you $4,400, but let's say he charges, $1,000 for his concierge fee. You're getting $3,400 off the MSRP of this vehicle. That's pretty good. I mean, in a car market, especially, early pandemic when car prices were through the roof and people were paying over sticker price, I thought this company was, a huge blessing and something I really wanted to shout out and get out there, because even during the height of the pandemic, AutoCompanion had great discounts on a lot of new cars. And that continues till this day. Obviously, the car prices have softened for sure, but it's still pretty high and pretty inflated. You're getting $3,400 off the top. You lease some of these cars, you get an additional lease cash. You're getting between 9 to 10 G's off the MSRP. This is AutoCompanion's own website, and he has this built-in calculator already. So you can actually run these numbers. You just put the first month's payment due at start, $314 a month. You're rocking and rolling in this plug-in hybrid Niro. This is obviously not the most exciting vehicle in the world, but I would much rather drive this than this. Now, yes, your mileage is limited. Some people literally drive like 100 miles per day, and some people just have no choice. They have to go out and they have to get a car in the used market. It is what it is. Yeah, you can do things like a high mileage lease for sure. Payment, I mean, yeah, you can do the high mileage lease, but some people drive more than this. I think some brands might allow you to do 25,000 miles, something to look into. But why do I bring up leasing? It's because a lot of people make such bad decisions. They end up in insane negative equity situations. You see it all the time on YouTube shorts and TikTok videos. The people are like 30, 40 grand underwater on like a Jeep Wagoneer or an Escalade or something, right? You can avoid a lot of those horror stories if you were just honest with yourself and you just say, listen, I'm going to sell this car after 3 years. If you were just honest with yourself like that, then you would just be able to identify that, okay, leasing works out best for me. Because here's the thing, most people, they go out, they buy a car, whether it's this or a new vehicle, they end up financing it. Most people actually just end up selling the car after they have it paid off. So they don't end up with a paid off car for a very long time. And after 5-6 years of making payments, no matter what car it is, the car has aged by 5 to 6 years, making it way more worthless. And when you lease vehicles, you just don't have to worry about that. So yes, you do have to pay a concierge fee to access these deals, but to get some of the lowest prices in the country, honestly, not bad. And real quick, I figured I should cover 2 vehicles that get scrutinized quite a bit in the new car segment. That is the new Tacoma and the new Toyota Tundra. A lot of people like to say that these vehicles are now a lot less reliable and the quality has gone down. I agree with that. But at the same time, the deals on these products are absolutely incredible. Between 12 to 14% off, and that's before incentives. That's wild. The thing leases between $350 to $450 a month for a new Tacoma. low $600 a month range for a new Tundra. I mean, if you need a truck for your family or for your business, these are incredible deals. You can never deny that. Not to mention, that's the whole point of driving a new car. It's to not worry about the reliability because it's under full factory warranty. And the other reason why I mentioned leasing is because you're protected from the negative equity that may or may not form. So leasing a new car protects you from two things: repairs and depreciation, while maintaining a high quality of life. And that's why I talk about this stuff. Not to mention, some people, when they buy trucks like this from brokers, like AutoCompanion, let's say they get a well-equipped Tundra for like the low $600 a month range or even under that, what they'll do is they'll literally take the truck, put it on a website known as Swap-A-Lease, and they'll charge like $600 a month as the payment for the vehicle. But what they'll do is they'll ask for $2,000 to $3,000 in down payment money. So they're trying to effectively flip the lease, quote unquote. I don't really recommend you do that. That's a risky game. Go out and get the vehicle because you need it for you or your family or for your business. And I bring up business in particular because I've noticed that a lot of the Dave Ramsey / pay cash individuals, they are not very empathetic towards some of the advantages that business owners have in terms of, leasing a new car and some of the write-offs associated with it. Obviously, you can talk to a tax professional regarding these things, but for some business owners, an expensive new vehicle, it's actually a necessity and not a want or a desire. I'm sure some of you have seen like these landscaping or window installation companies with six-figure trucks lifted up with big wheels and tires on it, wrapped with the company logos on it. For a successful company, that's effectively a write-off for them. Again, not financial advice, it's just things for you to look into and to consider. So much information on the internet regarding this stuff that you can research. Because I always say this, $100K made through a business and $100K made through a regular job, that's two totally different incomes. Plenty of resources out there to explain to you why that is. Don't get these vehicles in the hopes that you are going to make some type of a profit. It's a vehicle, it's not something you want to get carried away with and get greedy with. So yes, you have to exercise self-control for sure. But these individuals who walk around dealership lots complaining about the price of new vehicles by only showcasing you like a top trim level, like a TRD Pro or like a Raptor R, they're not really doing us, the consumer, much of a service, because in fact, all they're doing is really leading people astray. Because what I've noticed is people see the price of a new TRD Pro Tacoma or a Tundra, and they now associate that price, which is $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. They just associate that price with the entire Tacoma Tundra lineup, not realizing that a new Tacoma starts at like $31,500, that a new Tundra can be had in the $40,000 MSRP range, and that an F-150 does not cost $130,000. That's only for the Raptor R, and those types of products are made for high net worth, high income individuals. These brands make vehicles for the average person that starts at a much lower MSRP. And to stack these types of discounts on top and to get these newer vehicles at under invoice, you just end up in a far better position than the average person who does no research when buying a vehicle. To the point where the first and even the second owner, they're pretty much experiencing the same level of depreciation, except you're just now experiencing it in a new vehicle with no miles on it and with full peace of mind. That being said, I don't like the fact that the quality of new cars has gone down. I don't like the fact that new vehicles are disposable and just lease and dump machines. I don't believe that that is a good thing. Vehicles should in fact be extremely reliable and extremely durable. In fact, if these manufacturers cared about the environment as much as they claim they do, they should just take like an 80s or a 90s vehicle, improve the crash structure on that, and sell that to us as a new vehicle with some LED headlights and taillights on it. Vehicles should be reliable, durable, easy to work on, easy to get parts for, and it should be something that is able to somewhat be passed down as much as possible. Clearly, that's not the approach that these manufacturers are taking. And if that's the game that they're going to be playing, then we have to kind of shift our mindset as well. Because that's the other problem with the quote-unquote reliable used cars. They're just so old now at this point, and if you live in an area where rust is an issue, it's just another problem that you have to deal with. And once again, much lower quality of life dealing with those vehicles, wasting time on them, because that's just what cars eventually do, is they just rot out, sadly. Otherwise, I love driving used cars, you know, like the early 2000s, 90s vehicles. They just had a fantastic organic quality about it. You can really tell that manufacturers used to care. You know, crash test safety aside, the vehicles drove great, they were built great, honestly had more character than the vehicles of today. You can feel the synthetic quality of a new car even when you drive it. But that's just the world that we're in right now. You know, paying like $400 a month to get a 3-row SUV, you know, compare that to, you know, paying this, even a $15,000 car. What does that come out to? It's like $335 a month. See, I'm not saying that this works out for everyone, but it's just good to know about. And I'm not telling you to go out and lease a new car or buy a car from AutoCompanion. I just want to showcase to you what's possible. You know, you can get a 3-row SUV for essentially the same price as a $15,000 vehicle. You see what I'm saying? Actually, I literally think the Nissan Pathfinder leases in the $300 a month range, and you don't have to worry about reliability, maintenance, none of these things. You probably just have to do things like oil changes, but that's about it. But yeah, base model Pathfinder, like $400 a month, $335 for a used $15,000 car. So, you know, yes, you have to pay a fee. Yes, if you are not local to DC or California, you do have to have the vehicle shipped. But the point is, you just know what's possible in today's market. You can see the discounts, you can see the savings. This was not possible like 20 years ago, okay? Actually, underneath here, you can actually access this calculator. This is a free leasing calculator. It's just at the bottom of AutoCompanion's website. Let me see here. You can actually see the interest rate of a lease. You literally could not see this 20, 30 years ago. And there's a lot of, like, you know, Dave Ramsey people who say, you know, leasing is fleecing and all of these things. That's true if you don't know what you're doing. If you don't know the numbers that I'm about to show you, then yeah, it is pretty much fleecing. You're going to get screwed over for sure. I'm just going to enter in some random numbers here, quickly go through this. You know, I like to cover this in my new videos because honestly, the quality of life, being able to drive a new car that you don't have to worry about repairs, and not have to worry about being in an unsafe vehicle, it's just amazing compared to driving a used older car. Let's just go with $799 on that. Yeah, like $441 a month, $427. Yeah, that's for a 3-row SUV, one of the safest new cars that you can put your family into. Okay, maybe you don't like the Nissan brand, but like, who cares? When it's brand new under full factory warranty, it literally doesn't matter. You can pretty much drive anything, throw the keys back after 3 years, or if you like the car, you can actually just buy out the vehicle for this amount right here. This amount plus maybe some fees. So leasing is not fleecing. You're not just renting the vehicle. If you have a low interest rate lease, like kind of what we have here, this is not the best. It's 4%, it's okay. You're building some equity. You can actually end up just buying the vehicle if you love it so much. So, you know, you're not just throwing your money away. You are building equity, especially in the lower interest rate leases. Mazda tends to offer some low interest rate 1-2% leases as well. So it's a great way of doing a extended test drive, if you will, to see if you really like the vehicle. But yeah, see, you just have flexibility like this. If you just went out and you just finance the whole thing for like 37 grand, yeah, obviously the payment is astronomical. So if you can make this work, just look at how affordable that is. 768 versus 427. This is why I've shifted to talking about this as opposed to this. And I believe it was the BMW iX video where I kind of went through various scenarios of leasing and financing, and also a used iX as well. A lot of people regarding electric cars would say just buy a used one. And in that video, I demonstrated you're literally not saving as much money as you think, because if you're getting vehicles at deep discounts like this, new cars, you're actually facing pretty much the same level of depreciation as the second owner is buying like a certified pre-owned vehicle. So that's the other reason why I'm not even a big fan of the semi-new used vehicles, like certified pre-owned cars. It's just really not worth it. If you can just get a new car at a deep discount, you're actually better off just doing this than picking it up 2-3 years old with very little warranty coverage, if any at all, while paying higher interest rates. And a lot of people like to bring up the $5,000 used vehicles. I mean, even if you financed a $5,000 vehicle, that's still going to be like $120 a month. Even if you paid cash for a $5,000 vehicle, which a lot of the Dave Ramsey fans like to mention, oh, just pay cash for everything. You know, you got to get the cash from somewhere. That didn't just appear out of nowhere. On average, you would have to save like $83 a month for 60 months to come up with $5,000. There is something known as opportunity cost. That's like economics 101. Your cash has an opportunity cost attached to it, and it's not just free. You have to save this money up to get to this point right here. And on average, that's going to be about $83 a month, which you could have just used on one of these. Do you see what I'm saying? So, there's a cost here that people are not realizing. This money could have just compounded instead. Rather than that, you just chose to plop it all down on this rotting, depreciating liability. Okay, so that's another reason why I'm not a big fan of paying cash for vehicles. A lot of people are Dave Ramsey listeners. They're very comfortable with that knowledge. They think they know everything after listening to Dave Ramsey, and that is so depressing. I believe it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where people get a little bit of knowledge and they think they know everything. It's just so unfortunate because there's just basic calculations that you can do to realize that, that there are other options available to you, and it's just worth knowing about. I'm not saying one way is better than the other. You just have to do what's best for you and your family. But just disregarding something because Dave Ramsey said it's wrong, that's just not the wisest thing to do. There are other possibilities out here, a lot of other quality of life things that you're not taking into consideration when you just go out and get something like this, per se, especially in today's economy when all of these cars have skyrocketed in price. There's a responsible way of going about playing with these vehicles. Obviously, AutoCompanion can be like a foolproof way of getting into a new car. You don't have to worry about, the headaches, the hassle, the confusion, the finance department, the junk fees. You don't have to worry about any of that. You just pay his fee one time and you're getting a great deal on a vehicle with no other hidden fees attached to it. And this is that responsible way that I wanted to showcase to you in pretty much all of my videos. Sadly, the other thing I've noticed is, in the United States, apparently there's about 43 million people in the US that are actually illiterate. I looked it up, 21%, around 43 million people have low English literacy skills. And that has led to pretty much poor critical thinking skills, and they also have difficulty with things like comparing and contrasting information. That is just so sad. A lot of the information that I share with you, something like this calculator, it comes very easily to me, but to many other people watching, this is like a foreign language to them. I promise you, nothing here is above elementary school levels of mathematics, but unfortunately, not many people are able to digest this. And I'm not saying that people are fools by any means, absolutely not. We should not be making fun of anyone. Everyone's brain is wired in a different way, I get that. But, and it's never anybody's fault either. It's, they literally feed us garbage on a day-to-day basis, both with our food and the media that we consume. So it's just degrading our minds. That's not helping. But I just wish people would shift their attention to something more positive and learning about this. People just have that one train of thought. People just say, oh, if you can't pay cash for a car, or if you're not buying a used vehicle, you're an idiot, you're throwing money away. I just wish people would learn to think for themselves and realize that's not really the case. And people of all income brackets do this as well. I've seen people in the Ferrari forums say the same thing. Oh, if you can't pay cash for the car, you can't afford it. That's like me going up to some multi-billionaire and that charters a jet, going up to him and saying, oh man, if you can't pay cash for that jet and you have to charter it, that means you can't afford it. You should be surprised if you walk away from that interaction not getting backhanded to your face. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many different ways of playing the game. There's not just one way to do it. I wish people would realize that. And there's a responsible way of doing it as well. Most of the people that Dave Ramsey are talking to, those are people with pretty much no self-control. They go to a store, they get a credit card, and they buy everything that they see, essentially acting like children. And I admit, not everybody knows about AutoCompanion. Okay, this company has maybe sold, 20, 30,000 vehicles since the inception of their business. They account for less than 1% of new car sales in the United States. About 15 million vehicles are sold every year in the US. Most people are getting screwed over. Most people have no idea you can get these vehicles under invoice. In fact, people who work at dealerships, when they see this, they don't even believe it. It's actually a good question. Some people ask, how is it that AutoCompanion can get these deals and these discounts? Well, he's partnering with dealerships that do high volume. That's how they're able to get these discounts. And this is obviously like an older demo model. That's why this car is so heavily discounted, and it's obviously an EV. EVs tank in value, but you can take advantage of that on a lease for sure. But that's how AutoCompanion is able to get these deals. If you go to your local dealership asking for these discounts, they're just going to spit in your face. It's actually going to be pretty much impossible for them. They will be losing money selling you these vehicles at these discounts. Like 10% off on a new Mazda, that's below invoice. So these dealerships that AutoCompanion is partnered with, they're able to do this because they're doing high volume. They're able to get manufacturer bonuses for selling, X amount of units per month. So that's what they kind of count on, and that's what they rely on. I do not suggest you going to your local dealership and talking to them about AutoCompanion and Lease Hacker. Don't do any of that. You're not going to get the reaction that you're hoping for by mentioning these services to them. Keep it on the down low. Don't mention things like AutoCompanion. You can try and negotiate on your own. That's why this calculator exists. But don't tell them, where you got your numbers from. Just be discreet about it if you are going to negotiate on your own. So that's all I have to really talk about regarding why I don't cover used vehicles. There's also less interest rate regarding newer vehicles as well. I made a video recently on the Honda Passport. The 2026 is the new model year. The 2025, it's got like 0.99%, 1.99% interest rate. So you got the lower interest rates. You get a deep discount. The first and the second owner actually end up losing about the same amount of money in depreciation. So that's why this is so powerful. But I will say the only thing I don't like about new cars, it's going to be the data collection, man. I hate the screens. I hate the freaking AI that they have embedded into these newer vehicles. I hate all of that stuff. Regardless of that though, I would much rather rock this than this. As much as I don't like the new car tech, I'm still going to choose it over this. But that's just me though. Comment below, let me know your thoughts. Does this make sense now? Hopefully you appreciate the fact that I'm sharing with you information that literally no other journalist is sharing. I mean, most of these content creators, they're out here trying to serve themselves. I'm actually trying to serve you, the consumer, with valuable information and resources that you can utilize to save money for you and your family, and to hopefully improve your quality of life. Dude, even manufacturers don't like the fact that I share this information because it technically devalues their brand. So they don't even like it when I share this information. If you appreciate that, consider liking and subscribing. Thank you again for watching and supporting. Take care and God bless.